Hello.
All right, g'day, ladies and gentlemen. We are here and we are live for this week's episode of Ask Aureus Anything.
Anything.
We have replaced Mr. Jackson Millan, the wealth mentor, with Mr. Big Sal Salvatore Michelli.
G'day, guys.
Welcome aboard, Sal.
Nice to be back.
Let's shove over a little bit. Peter Curious here. Of
Hello,
course
Peter.
he is. What is the Mexican Sal doing there, and where is Ned Kelly? They are some excellent questions there, Mr. Peter Arcuri. The Mexican Sal is here. He's on board tonight to replace Ned Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
So Jackson Millan is overseas. He's enjoying a well-earned break in the Philippines, beautiful country.
Yeah.
He's over there because he's been working. He's been working 20 hours a day, and we had to send him away for a week because he was going to have a breakdown. So
He was talking all week. He's been booked out non-stop. He needs a break, mate.
he needs a break, Pete. Come on, mate. You're a hard boss, Pete. But that's why Mexican Sal is here, and that's where Ned Kelly is. So hopefully that clears that up for you there, Pete. This is the
23rd episode.
23rd episode.
23rd episode.
23rd episode, which is gone for a lady boy. Wrong country, Pete. That's Thailand. I don't think Philippines not for the lady boys, mate. You got that one a little bit back to front, but I like your enthusiasm.
Got a
Pete.
great start here.
I like your enthusiasm. 23rd episode. This is doing good. Last week Jackson Millan's here. Look, he loves us all. Hello, we love you too.
We got 23 episodes, man.
What?
That's 23 hours that we've been sitting here answering your guys' questions.
We have. And the past few weeks have been a bit of a mess. I've been out of action for essentially the whole of June for all sorts of reasons. Big Sal, he's here tonight.
Yeah, without Jackson, it's been tough breaks here. Trying to run the wealth side on my own.
Yeah, you've been doing good, Sal.
Yeah.
You've been doing good. There's a few lady boys here, Pete, but not what I'm here for. This Q&A is just degenerating into something that it wasn't meant to be.
Let's flip this around and make this a little bit more G-rated and get through to the prize for the week. So the prize for the week goes out to Scott Knudsen for his lovely post last week. Thank you very much, Scott. Your prize is, of course, a copy of the Wealth Mentor himself, his book, Enjoy the Journey. So please feel free to send us a message and we'll happily shoot you out a book via express post.
Thanks, Scotty. Thanks for your input, mate. You also texted me while I was in hospital, recovering from my recent stint.
He got bonus points for that. That's why it's got prize.
You did, mate. You got bonus points for texting me while I was battling demons in the hospital, mate. So that's a very good effort. Very good effort there, Scotty. It's a good book. Enjoy the Journey. For those of you guys who haven't read it yet, a lot of you guys we've given free copies to. Peter Curie, we gave you a free copy. Did you read it? Peter, did you read the copy that we gave you of Ask Aureus Anything? I need to know that.
Enjoy the Journey.
What? I've enjoyed the journey. Yeah. Sorry, I got the title of the book wrong. But you need to answer that question before you go home tonight.
As always, guys, any questions we answer here, of course, general advice only. Please don't take our word willy-nilly. Seek professional advice. Obviously, it's going into your personal circumstances. And yeah, let's get started. We've
got a question from Jackson Millan. Jackson has asked Sal, how long do you think it will take you to grow a beard like Jackson?
I was actually contemplating this morning having a shave. Nah.
I had a shave once, Sal.
I'm not going to get it as long as you, Jackson. I think that's we don't need a second Mexican Ned Kelly in here. I think that would just be taking the piss.
Oh, very good. Darren Zoo's here. Darren is halfway through reading the Enjoy the Journey book by Jackson Millan. Good work, Darren. How are you finding it, mate? How are you finding the book? Make sure to let us let us know.
Keep us posted.
Let us know how you're finding the book. We're gonna fix this a little bit. We're gonna make this better.
We've had a couple of clients come back to us and ask us questions, mate. That looks so much better.
So much better.
We've had a couple of questions, read the book, and obviously also shoot us a couple of personal messages. So thank you for that, guys. It's good to see that we've got some enthusiasm and people are enjoying the journey of reading the book.
Yeah, that's good, guys. That's excellent. It was a big love job. The book. We really wanted to. A lot of what we do is about educating people, financial literacy, and proving that in Australia. So we're happy that people are enjoying the book and getting a lot of value out of it. Kudos to Jackson for writing the book. It takes a lot of time and energy to write a book. One day I might write a book. I'm not sure. I don't know if I have the patience to do that. Peter Curie, there's only one Ned. Correct, Pete. There is only one Ned. All right. So without further ado, remember, anyone who hasn't watched episodes of Ask Aureus anything before, we're live.
Post your questions in there.
Yes, it is a live Q&A. So we have questions that we get throughout the week. We deal with clients all week, and we deal with business partners, and we deal with all manner of people who ask us money and wealth-related questions. So we like to collate them throughout the week, and we will go through them one by one. However, if you are watching live and you have a question for us and you ask it live, do not be shy. Do not be shy.
Don't be shy. Come say hi and post a question in the comment box.
Yes, as Big Sal has suggested, that's what you should do. Jackson Millan has written, we need to write the next book, mate. I think he's talking to me. We will, mate. We're going to write a book. Let's when you get back from the Philippines, we're going to write a book.
Definitely.
All right. So
the first question is yours, mate.
First question from me. So
Indeed.
Thank you, mate. Thank you, good sir. So I got this question during the week from a friend of mine, and they asked, when you get married, does the amount of tax you pay change? Not really, not by default. So you don't, Sal he's got a girlfriend, lovely girl. I'm married. Our tax rates aren't affected by that one factor alone. But what you can do when you're married and you've got a partner, let's say you've got a company or a trust, and you have to distribute the profits from your company to your trust. If you're married and the beneficiaries and it's structured correctly, then you can move money around and you can move profits around to whoever is the most tax effective person to receive it. So let's say that you earned a $200,000 profit in the business. Instead of the one person, let's say the husband, in this case, taking the $200,000 and being taxed on the higher marginal tax rate throughout, then he may be able to distribute half, so 100 grand to himself and 100 grand to his wife, and net result will be they pay less tax because of the lower marginal tax rates at the lower income levels. Obviously, you need to get tax advice on that. You need to make sure that you're not doing anything cheeky because you don't want to get into trouble. But yes and no. In short, because you're married, are you going to pay less tax? No. If you are married and you have the correct structures in place, can you minimize your tax? Yes.
Definitely. Cool. I think you answered that pretty well. But we have another question here. This one's more so for me. How do I know I'm in the right super fund? Absolutely great question. It's something that we don't think about a lot, super fund, given that especially young people thinking that, it's something that we're not going to touch till we're 60, so why bother? Guys, I can tell you right now, it's something that we should be looking into at the most earliest opportunity. But in short, how do I know I'm in the right super fund? How we look at it, there's basically two factors that we want to look at first of all. Obviously, first of all, being the fees. There's a lot of products out there and there's a lot of different fee structures out there. We want to make sure that the fees are simple and obviously as low as possible, particularly ones that we've seen come through that are set up by someone's employer and they never really look at it until late notice. The last thing we want to do is obviously have all our money start stacking up and have the time that we've taken to obviously have a check on it. All of a sudden we see that we've been paying so much in fees that we could have had a bit of a discount simply just by moving our money from one place to another. So that's one thing that we want to look at in terms of having a look at determining whether we're in the right super fund. The next thing we want to look at is the type of investment option that we have in our super. Now, a lot of people, from not checking their super, typically what will happen is that they'll get set up in what's called the default fund. Now, typically what we've found with super nowadays that what we have found a lot with clients is that they are in a bit of a balanced option, which is pretty much in the middle. But given new legislation, there are some cases where the super investment is in this balanced option, but as they continue to go older, the amount of money that they have towards growth assets in their investments starts to reduce. Obviously, this is something that we should be taking on our own terms, and people don't realize that we have the capability to choose our own investment options based on our own accord. So obviously we want to make sure that, one, the fees are low and that we're saving money on fees and we don't leave it to the last minute so that we have the maximum opportunity with our super contributions. And number two, we want to make sure that we're in the right investment options, one that can hopefully promote us growth, but entirely up to you depending on how much risk you're willing to take. I find from our experience here, I do a lot of the super research here at Aureus. I've seen some crazy stories. I've seen people pay upwards of, even just last week, we had a client that came up to us and was paying around $1,000 of fees. Realistically, he could be paying more than half that. And this has been going on for years on end. And all of a sudden, he just decided to check it, and big surprise. It's not a nice surprise. So yeah, fees and investments. That's how we know we're in the right super fund. And obviously, guys, we have a lot of comparison software here. Just quick, give us a comment here or shoot us a message. More than happy to do a super health check for you guys, get a bit of value and make sure that we're on the right path.
And Sal, you're right, mate. You nailed that. And look, super's one of these things, right? For guys like Sal, they're all over this super stuff, and Jackson, and they thrive on this stuff. For the rest of us, it's too complicated, and no one wants to deal with it. But it's low-hanging fruit, guys. It's low-hanging money fruit, okay? So it's one of these things that you're never going to sort out on your own. Go see someone like Sal who can do it all for you, because it's too complicated and you don't know what you're doing. But if you don't do it, you're going to have less money in retirement. And trust me, you think you're 60, you're going to be an old man. You're going to live to your 70, 80, 90. You want to make sure that you've got some cash to live a good lifestyle. So it's one of these things that if you get it right, and the younger that you get it right, the more money you're going to have when you're older and the better quality of life you're going to be able to live. So don't let all the jargon scare you off. Just engage someone to do all the heavy lifting for you. Big Sal is one such gentleman, and that's how you get it done. But don't ignore it because it's too complicated. That's my only advice.
One thing we want to see: the more the earlier we get to it, the more we allow our super to compound. Things that we can obviously fuel our retirement lifestyle. Do you have any Lamborghinis in mind that you want to retire? Things like that. In short, it's more so about getting on top of it early so that we have that balance building and working in our favor, so we can do all the nice things in retirement. It's your money, so I really like it's low hanging fruit, like you said. It's something so easy to do just by moving, saving some cash, making sure we're in the right investments and we're on our path.
That's right. It's a no-brainer. All right, so we've got some comments here. We're going to go through them. We have Peter Arcuri. One of those picture books will be nice.
Yeah, Peter doesn't like word books. He's more a picture person.
That's all right, Pete. One day we might publish a picture book. Just pictures of Sal. It'll be just a book that's just pictures of Sal. If we do that, Pete, it's all yours, mate. We'll send you a free copy, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
I'll even sign it for you.
He'll even sign it for you.
Might be worth something one day.
All right, Peter Arcuri. No, but they amount of cash. The she takes it all.
I think that was in reference to your tax question.
Yeah, reference into tax question, Peter Arcuri. All right. Next is Michael Torcher. Good seeing you last Sunday, bro. Looking good. Oh, thank you, mate. It was a pleasure seeing you. Actually, hadn't seen you for a very long time. You were looking good also, mate. Very, very healthy. You're getting married soon. Congratulations on that, Michael Torcher. It's good being married. Don't listen to Peter Arcuri. It's a good life. Peter Arcuri, no, but the amount of cash because he takes it is Pete's repeating himself. All right, next is Darren Zhu. Do you guys recommend a self-managed super fund? This is an excellent question, Darren, and it's something that I'm actually really passionate about because there's a lot of spruikers in this space, mate. And there was a lot of people in the past were just pushing self-managed super funds onto people, whether or not they were suitable for them, because there was a lot of money to be made in it. There was big fees to be made in it. So that's what they were doing. Whether or not we recommend self-managed super funds to people depends entirely on the individual themselves. All right. So there's a sort of a threshold of sophistication and capital that an individual has in their superannuation before it tips over in the favour of them having a self-managed super fund. Okay, so self-managed super funds are more complex than your standard industry funds, and they cost more to run if the fund amount is small. So you want to make sure that if you are going to have a self-managed super fund, that you're the right person for it. And yes, we will recommend it if people are the right fit for it, but we won't push people into them willy-nilly.
I think typically when it comes down to a self-managed super fund, there's a bit of a self-assessment that we do here. First of all, it is quite expensive. We don't really consider it for people that, our benchmark here is probably in the vicinity of $200,000. Anything below that, to be honest, the cost effectiveness is not really worth it. The second factor we look at in terms of self-managed super funds is obviously the time. Given that we're managing our own investments, there's a lot of complexity involved, even in the back-end paperwork, the compliance and things like that. Typically, when we have a self-managed super fund, we also have to have the time to be able to manage that. Either that or have somebody there to manage it for us, which of course is an added cost to that self-managed super fund. In terms of, it also depends on purpose in terms of recommending a self-managed super fund. If you're someone that likes to manage your own investments, by all means, go crazy. But when it comes down to time, no. But there's also another thing now. What we've had a lot of clients come in to do, and it's kind of funny, really. We've had a lot of barbecue stories come in where people have mentioned that they've heard from a brother's cousin's mother that they could use a self-managed super fund to buy holiday homes and things like that. We have to also remember that when we're recommending a self-managed super fund, that there has to be a purpose there in order to fund our retirement lifestyle. It's what's called the sole purpose test. A lot of people, when they go about self-managed super funds, they think that they can buy property and do all these things in real time at the moment. If you do those things, I guarantee you the ATO will not look friendly upon you. So more so when we recommend the self-managed super fund, we've got to think of the cost side of things. We've got to think of the time kind of things. And we've also got to think of the purpose. Self-managed super fund, in its own name, it says itself, it's a super fund. It's there for your retirement. It's not there basically as a slush fund. So they're basically the three things that we're looking out for when we're looking to recommend a self-managed super fund. I hope that answers your question, Darren. If you have any pointers or anything else you'd like to mention, please feel free to comment, obviously. But I hope that gives you a bit of guidance.
Yeah, so Darren, to give you a little bit of a background to really simplify it, right? So my wife and myself at the moment have our superannuation invested in sort of low cost index fund, courtesy of Sal and Jackson put that together for us, and they will continue to be invested in low cost index funds until we get to that $200,000 mark of combined superannuation. When we do, that's probably when I'll switch over to a self-managed super fund and look to borrow and accumulate some property in there. So that's probably what I would do, and that's probably it's a pretty easy breakdown of the way we treat self-managed super fund. But if you're thinking about doing it, mate, make sure you get in touch with us just so we can chew the fat on that before you pull the trigger on anything.
No Lamborghinis through your super fund.
No Lamborghinis through your super fund. Sal keeps talking about Lamborghinis. He's going to be in trouble soon, I tell you. All right, so Anton Bonacci, what's the B? Don't know what the B is, mate. Is he a friend of yours? Anton, I don't know. You're going to have to articulate further what that question means, because B, that's Beyonce maybe? I don't know. All right.
I like Beyonce.
All right. So next is Jackson Millan. What do you think about the RC breaking up the CBA group? How does this affect the average Aussie? So the RC is the Royal Commission. What do I think about it, mates? I think it's all a bit of a fugazi. Everyone knows these financial institutions all own each other anyway. It's going to get broken up. The share prices will be volatile. How does it affect the average Aussie? Look, we're probably going to see at the end of this Royal Commission that the industry, the financial services industry, is cleaned up. A lot of these cowboys are going to exit the industry, or they're going to retire. And we're going to get better quality of financial services and better quality of financial advice. It's going to increase the cost to serve in the industry and more compliance. I'm certain of that. But I think the end result is going to be better. And the more that people can do to ensure that the typical or the average Australian is not ripped off by the crooks that are out there in the industry, the more the better, in my humble opinion. What do you think about it, Sal?
I haven't heard much about it in the media, to be honest. It's pretty big because CBA, given the size of CBA. But yeah, like Sam said, there's a lot of cowboys in this industry, and the good thing that came out of it is obviously all these cowboys getting out.
Yeah, and it's it's one of those things where I think we care about it a lot more than the average person. People loathe money at the best of times, so for them, a bit of news about financial services companies breaking up and entering into different share agreements and things like that is probably not on the high scale of interesting for the average punter enjoying a skewy at a barbecue. But look, interesting to us. Nonna's here. She says hello. Hello, Nonna. You're the best. You're always here. You're here every week. All right, we have Sally and Hurley.
I actually met Sally one day. We had a meetup group actually in the city. I met Sally, really positive person, fantastic. And I also would love to get a copy of your book, Sally. She also just came out with a book similar to Jackson.
Yeah, okay, very good.
How to Love the Out of Life. Sally, post your book down below in the comments. I'm sure that you'll get some people want it. Yeah, it's definitely something that I like.
That's a good idea, Sally. Post a link to your book so everyone can check it out. Maybe you can reach out to us, Sally. PMS. Maybe we'll get you on the podcast. You can come on and you can chat to Jackson and myself, and we can have a bit of banter about your book and about what you're doing. What's it called?
How to Love the Out of Life. I'm not sure if
so. You're allowed to swear, mate. You're allowed to swear. But with a title like that, it's got to be a pretty good book. It's got to be a pretty good book. So we're way off course, but Sally Ann has said, "Hi guys, I've always gone to an accountant to do my tax return. However, I'm considering doing it online this year, recommended by several friends. Do you suggest online?"
It really depends on the complexity of your tax situation. So to put it simply, last year when I was at uni working part-time, I did my tax return online purely because it was simple. I didn't have much complexity in my tax situation. I pretty much just earned income part-time, had a couple of deductions here and there. If your tax situation is basically that simple, then by all means go do it online. When we start whacking things in like significant work deductions, when we have properties in the midst, things that start to get a little bit more complex in your situation, that's when I'd start going to see the accountant. More so because of a time thing, and again, to get the most value out of our tax returns. But if you're in a simple situation, online is fantastic, but going through MyGov alone is pretty hard, let alone having it in a complex tax structure, should you have one.
Yeah, and Sally Ann, tax returns, simple tax returns, they really aren't that expensive these days. Accountants can typically knock them over pretty quickly, so they're pretty inexpensive, especially if you've got the book. I'm assuming you've got other business interests. If you're operating any sort of businesses or companies or trusts or investments or things like that, I probably wouldn't suggest that you have a crack doing it yourself. If you're not getting value out of your accountant, if you're only talking to your accountant once a year, that's probably a bit of a problem in itself. And you'd probably want to engage someone who's probably got a more strategic relationship with you. So you're actually working towards goals and not just paying your tax at the end of the year. But yeah, Sal nailed it. If your tax returns are really simple and you want to do it online and you want to invest the time, have a crack. If they're anything more than very simple, no, I'd go to an accountant to do it. So I hope that clears that up for you, Sally Ann. Thank you very much for the question.
Thanks, Sally.
All right, so we've got Anton here.
That's what the B was.
That's what the B was. Anton, thank you very much for the question, mate. So Anton asked, where's the best place to put my money in for my first investment? I love this question because I remember back to my first investment. It was the most exciting time I had at that point of my life. I was 18. I bought an investment property. I saved all my money. You know, I left school when I was 15 and I busted my ass. I worked so hard.
You did well.
I did well. I worked really hard. I was working weekends. I was working at night, and I managed to save up some cash. And I put a deposit on a property in Manlyvale on Sydney's northern beaches, and it was really exciting. And that one decision has set me up to continue growing off the back of that. So I love this, Anton. I love the question, and I really want to help you here. So where's the best place to put my money in for my first investment? So, mate, what I done? I kept all my money in cash in a high interest savings account, and I saved it up until I had enough to put a deposit on a property. I was living at home with my parents when I brought it, so I had minimal living expenses. I was only young. I was only 18, and I was saving since when I was about 15. So I had the opportunity to save my money at the time. And once I had a big enough deposit, I went and bought the property. And the reason I like buying a property as your first big investment is because of the leverage. All right. If you save 100 grand and 20 grand for stamp duty, so let's say 120 grand in total, you can borrow 400 grand and you can go and buy a $500,000 investment. Now, owning a $500,000 investment property in a good area is going to give you much better results than over the long term than holding, $100,000 worth of shares. And that's only because of the leverage that's involved. All right, because you're using the bank's money. You can even take it a little bit further. You could probably buy an investment property if you saved, 50 or 70 grand or something like that. It would be a lower entry point in the investment market. But essentially, when you invest, Anton, you have three things that you can invest in to grow your wealth. You can invest in businesses. You can invest in shares, and you can invest in real estate, property, real estate. All right, they're your three choices. I love business, but business is complex and it's not for everyone, and it's a slow burn. Shares are very good as a satellite investment, manage funds and things like that. But I still love a bit of bricks and mortar, a bit of real estate. Save your money, go hard on it. It'll teach you some good money habits anyway, because you're going to have to budget to save the money to buy the property and then get that first big hit, buy that investment property. That's probably what I would be doing. I can't give you advice specifically because I don't know your circumstances, but that's what I've done. Would I recommend other people do it, or would I do it myself again if I had the choice? Yes, I would.
Generally speaking as well, I've had a couple of questions as well. I actually had one from a client of ours earlier this week. How do you invest your money? Given, like, for me, I'm on the footstep of my wealth journey, so I'm looking to build that wealth. Ideally looking to save for property. Of course, everyone, it's the Australian dream to save up for property in their own home. Just sticking the course and having that savings plan in place, but there are also ways that we can amplify our savings in order to get to our targets that we want to have in terms of investment strategy. There's cool little micro investing apps. Things that we can do with having some managed funds in place, generally speaking. Obviously, we can have our money in savings, although that is a little bit small, or we can amplify our wealth in terms of having little investments and slowly progressing and building up to that bigger investment goal that we have. So if someone's starting basically on the footsteps there, that's an alternative that we can consider as well. But obviously, like Sam said, consider your personal circumstances, obviously, and feel free to reach out to one of us. Should you be in this circumstance, Anton, feel free to reach out.
Yeah, get in touch, mate. We're more than happy to help. All right, so we have some more comments here from Peter Arcuri. Okay, guys, on a serious note, I'm looking to change some of my investments at the present moment. I've got quite a bit in cryptocurrency and I play quite a bit with currency exchange itself. Can you suggest any other investments for me? All right, so the thing with this, Pete, right? So to me, cryptocurrency is not an investment. You're speculating on the direction of a currency. The same with Forex and currency exchanges. You're not actually investing your money. You are in the business of speculating on the price movements of a currency in an exchange. That's essentially what you're doing. So to me, it's not an investment because you're not deriving a return from it. When you buy shares, you get paid dividends. When you own a business, you get profits. And when you own property, you get rent. When you own crypto or you're trading foreign exchange, unless you are profiting from the movements in the price of these assets, you're not actually deriving any benefit. So for me, I don't deem it as an investment. Can I suggest any other investments for you, mate? You've got a building business. I'd probably double down on the business. That's going to be your number one creator of wealth moving forward. Once you've got that business cranking and making massive profits, I'd be looking to either sink those profits into managed funds or into property investments that you can compound over the next 10 or 20 years until you retire and live the dream. I don't know. I'm cryptocurrency and Forex and all that. It's not that I'm against it. I used to be a futures trader. Do you know what I mean? I used to do odds arbitrage, so I know this stuff. I know how it works. I made a living out of it for years. But it's not investing. Trading financial markets is not investing.
Yeah, it's purely speculative in nature, both Forex and the cryptocurrency market. Our golden rule of thumb here is only play with what you can lose, but it's not something to take seriously until we have other investments or at least a base working for us before we dabble around in these kinds of items. It's not something that we would go forward with. So sorry about that, Peter. In terms of other investments, yeah, if you're sticking the course in business property shares, it's more than likely ideal.
Yeah, and mate, if you're doing well out of the trading, more power to you. You know, have a crack at it. But as long as you understand that you're operating a business and you're not investing in those assets, that's the big difference I want to make. I know a lot of people who have made considerable amounts of money trading, who've traded for their entire lives for 50 years, and that was their business. So it's not that it's impossible to make money out of it. It's just that it's a business venture. It's a business venture. All right, so we've got some more questions here. Sally Ann, Sal, you legend. Sal, you are a legend.
Thanks.
You are. Big Sal is a legend. Sally Ann, I wholeheartedly agree with you in that comment. And I'll hit you guys up. We'd love to be on the podcast. Yes, we'd love to have you on the podcast. Anyone else who's watching who wants to come on the podcast, if you've got an interesting story to tell, then you are more than welcome on the podcast. We like to sit down and have a bit of banter. We don't care what your story is, as long as it's cool and there's some lessons to be learned from it. That's what we're after on the Enjoy the Journey podcast. All right, so we're going to get stuck into some more questions. But anyone who's watching, I can see you guys. I know you're sitting there watching this. So throw your questions at us. Please do not be shy. We're literally here. We've been here since 5:30. We're going to be here until 6:30. So you make sure that if you've got questions, you throw them at us. And we're going to answer them live as we go. All right, so
That's yours, mate.
Next one's mine. So I got this from a real estate agent, friend of mine today, local agent on the Northern Beaches. He said to me that that a lot of his buyers are having trouble, financing smaller properties. So the question he had to me was, can you borrow to buy a property that is under 50 square meters or 40 square meters?
40 square.
All right. So these are typically your smaller sorts of properties, guys. So these are your studio apartments or your little one bedders. All right. And the rules do get stricter with some lenders when you start going below 50 square meters of an area of a unit. Okay, so between 40 and 50 square meters is sort of one set of rules, and below 40 is sort of another set of rules. In short, yes, you can borrow to buy these sorts of properties, okay? However, it's going to limit the amount of lenders that we can use to buy these properties, okay? So not all banks want to fund properties that are this small, and sometimes they may want to make sure that the properties are in really good locations if they're going to be that small, in good condition, good nick, things like that. And they want to make sure that the buyer is also a strong buyer. The borrower is a strong borrower. So that means having a healthy deposit, and that means having a good surplus income so you can comfortably afford the debt. So not impossible between 40 and 50. Below 40, still not impossible, but a little bit trickier. So you're probably going to need a 20% deposit at that stage, plus costs. And you're going to have pretty good cash flow to service the debt. So it's one of those things that if you're in the know, you can work out how to finance them. If you don't, or if you're not in the know, then you're really going to have trouble to buy these sorts of properties. So if you are in the market for these studios or these one bedders, make sure you have a very good mortgage broker on your side, and they're going to be able to help to get you across the line on those little properties.
How would you feel about living in a 40 square meter house? A bit cramped.
Maybe, yeah, people got different lifestyles. If you're single, you know what I mean. People do it.
It's crazy. I've never seen that question come out. It's interesting. Good answer.
All right. So
this next question is on me. Unless we have any other questions that people might have posted,
make sure you shoot these questions out to us, guys. We want to answer your questions. Mick, Michael Babalacci, if you're still watching, you're going to have to go back to the start. I answered that question for you, mate, that you threw at me last week that I didn't get to answer. So go check that out, mate. I'm sorry it took a week to get back to you.
We have another question here. For myself, where did you learn to dance and how can I dance like you? Fantastic question. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if any of you guys have watched that previous videos. I do like to dance a lot in our videos. You got to have some fun here. We're in the finance industry. We're not all about numbers. We're about fun here. To answer the question, where did you learn to dance? Well, back in high school, I was a bit of a dance revolution. I was a bit of a dance revolution freak. Hitting up the local Galaxy World, Chinatown, C-Town. Hitting up the local Galaxy World, thanks for Dance Dance Revolution, on expert mode, and people would usually crowd around me at how fast I would move my feet. So if I was to answer that question pretty solidly, where did I learn to dance? Back in the high school days, hitting up that Dance Dance Revolution.
I love that. I love that. That's a question on Ask Aureus Anything. I want to know how Sal learns to dance. You're a much better dancer than me, Sal. I can't dance for shit, I tell you. All right, that's why I don't do any dancing. Sal does enough dancing for the both of us.
We're going out for beers this Friday. That might change.
No, that's not going to change, right? I'm not doing any dancing. I tell you. All right, so for you guys that are watching, make sure you ask us your questions. Don't just sit there silently. I'm sure there is something that you have on your mind. Shoot it away. Next. We got this from a client this week. They have said, and this one's really interesting, they've said, I want to build a granny flat on my property. How can I finance this? I love the question, and I love the idea of adding value to a property and getting more rental income from it, increasing your yield and improving your cash flow. Around here on the northern beaches of Sydney, granny flats are really, really popular. It's because property is really expensive around here, and it's a bit of a no-brainer. If you've got the backyard, you've got the room to do it, even if it's your home or your investment property, you can build the flat. Might cost you $100,000 or $150,000. You might get $600 or more dollars a week rent out of it, which is a really, really, really good return.
Yeah, but in some cases, the yield's being crazy with granny flats. So
yeah, they are, and residential real estate is typically a pretty low yielding asset class. So if you can you can pump that up. That's really good. That's really what you want. So how can you finance this? How can you get the money to put these granny flats? So essentially, you have two choices. All right. You need to get your DA approval and all that, or your private certifier approval. So you need to have all your ducks in a row there to make sure that you're actually allowed to build a granny flat. If you are allowed to build the granny flat, you have two options. So assuming that you can service the debt. All right. So assuming that the banks will lend you the money based on your household cash flow, the next step is having the equity to do so. So there's going to be two scenarios. Number one, the amount of debts. Let's say the granny flat cost 150 grand. Your home is worth $1 million, and you owe 500,000 on the home. So you've got $500,000 in equity. You can take it up to 80%, so you can borrow up to $800,000 against $1 million property, and you currently only owe $500,000. That means you can borrow up to $300,000. So you can just do an equity release against the value of your property, pull out the 150 grand or as a construction loan, and pay for the granny flat. And that's a simple way of doing it. Let's say you didn't have the equity in the property. Okay, so let's say that you had that $1 million property, but you had it, or you already had an $800,000 loan. You could make a 20% deposit against the build. So for $150,000 granny flat build, 30 grand, and then the bank would be able to finance the other 120,000 subject to a valuation on the property. But that way, even if you didn't have the equity, if you managed to get 30 grand from somewhere, maybe you saved it up or something similar, then you could use that money as a deposit on the granny flat, and you could finance the rest of it. So the barriers for entry here, assuming you already own residential real estate that you could build a granny flat on, the barriers to entry to actually building it, assuming that you've got the DA or whatever private certified that you need, then really low barriers to entry and a really good way to increase your yield and get a bit of cash in the bank every week. What do you think of that, Big Sow?
Yeah, I like granny flats. My mum's in the process of building a granny flat at the back of my house. I live in a granny flat myself, and it's quite cozy. Yeah, it's pretty nice. But yeah, no, the return. What I've seen with granny flats is the returns are impressive. So it's something that if it was in my position, I'd happily do it. But yeah, it's good answer in terms of the granny flats kind of thing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's talk to your broker, and a good broker should be able to get you the cash so you can build a flat. Your repayments would be minimal compared to what the amount of rent that you would generate from
exactly
it.
Right. That's where my win is.
Yeah.
Is Peter a builder? Peter Curie?
Peter is. He. Why didn't you get him to build the granny flat?
If any of you guys need financing, please come to us. If any of you guys need construction, please come to Peter.
Peter, finance and building granny flat. What do I do? Peter, let us know if that answer wasn't clear, mate. And any questions or anything else that you want me to clarify around that, happy to go over it. You're a builder, mate. You could probably do it for less than 150 grand. You should just be building granny flats everywhere, Peter. Just anyone with a backyard, just smashing granny flats up. I love it. Everyone who's watching, make sure you ask us your questions. Ask us anything. It's literally the name of the show.
I just asked a question. I just answered a question. Sorry, it's too late in the night. I've just answered a question on how am I so good at dancing. So ask us anything, literally anything. We have another question here. This one's directed at myself. I got asked this question earlier this week. I think I kind of answered it earlier in the last question. But the question goes, I have a new job. I'm making good money and I want to build wealth, but I don't know where to start. Where do I begin? And the way I answer this question, because when I think of this question, I think of myself and my start of my wealth journey. The first thing that I want to do, we'll take it back 3 steps. First thing I like to think about is obviously what do I want to work towards? Because obviously if I don't have an idea of where I'm going, what the hell am I going to invest in? How the hell do I know? So I want to have a good idea of what I want to achieve or what I want to get. In my mind at the moment, it's obviously having my own home and being able to, at some point, help my mum out with the mortgage. So that's my purpose. When it comes down past, I've identified what I want, then I think about those foundations. So this is where the investing part starts to kick in. The best thing that I've done when I've started in terms of building money, and now that I have a solid wage post my poor uni days, I made a budget, and I identified out of all the expenses I have, how much is left over. And whatever I have left over, I have that left over pretty much on a consistent basis every single month. And every single month, what I'm doing, I'm contributing that surplus towards different investments that I have. Little investments can even make the biggest difference. I use personally myself, I use a couple of little micro investing apps here and there that help me get access to a couple of index funds that I really like. But yeah, that's more so about, if in my case, starting off small, identifying where you want to go, what your surplus is, and fixing that surplus as soon as you get paid to investments that will help you get there. So that's my 2 cents on how we should start. Knowing what we want, knowing the tools we have to get it, and knowing what's available in order for us to get to where we want to be. So that's how I look at investing. It's not all about money. It's more so also about why. So that's, yeah.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that is to educate yourself. You know what I mean? If you're wanting to start to build wealth, it's a whole new language, it's a whole new world, and you need to learn a little bit. Not only to continue to grow, but also to protect yourself as well, so you don't make really bad mistakes. You know, it's almost not making really bad mistakes is almost or more important as making really good decisions. So that's one of the things that I would add on top of Big Sal's answer. All right, and Peter Curie, Granny Flats are right up my alley, finance and build, MG design and build. All right, chuck a link in there, Pete. Why not? Chuck a link in. Peter Curie, he's all about building granny flats. So if anyone needs a granny flat built, he's your man. Our number one investment is the Mexican border wall.
I'm not sure who Sal is, but you know.
Peter, you're a bad man, Pete. I was just helping from now you want Sal to go back on the other side of the wall.
I don't know. No, it's Sal. It's Sal.
This isn't Game of Thrones, Pete. We can't send him north of the wall. That's just how it is.
South of the wall.
All right. Yeah. So any questions, guys, you make sure to ask us. But our next question we had this week from a client of mine was, how does capital gains tax work? Okay, so this is something we get all the time. I don't know why everyone's so infatuated with. Oh, thank you, Jess. Thank you. Any questions, Jess? Chris April's here. That's good. Chris April, ask us some questions. All right. So the question was, how does capital gains tax work? So capital gains tax, essentially, when you buy an asset and you sell it at a higher price in the future, then you have to pay tax on the profits that you've made from the owning of that asset. Okay, so let's break it down a little bit more. Let's say that you go to work and you earn $100,000 a year from your salary. Okay, and then years ago you bought a property for $500,000 and you sold it for $1 million. 10 years later, assuming, forget about costs and all that for now, just use round numbers, you've made a $500,000 gross profit, okay? So out of that $500,000, you'll get a capital gains tax discount. So you should get a 50% discount on that amount. So half of it, that $250,000, which is half of the $500,000 that you made as a profit, will be added to your taxable income of your $100,000. So in that financial year, you'll be taxed on $350,000. So $100,000, which is your salary, and $250,000, which is half of the capital gain that you made on the property. That actually sounds a little bit complicated now that I'm saying it out loud. It's one of those things that if you've made a really good profit on an asset, good on you. You've made a really good profit. It's nothing to have the shits about. And if it's going to be a very substantial capital gain like that, you need to get some advice around it. All right. You should have had some advice before you bought the asset. That's too late now. But for those of you that are watching who are looking to accumulate wealth for the future, you should get some advice around the right way to structure the ownership of those assets and what you plan on doing with it, so you can save on tax later down the track, depending on what your plans and what your strategy are. However, for those that are already bought their investments before they watched Ask Aureus Anything and they were in the abyss and they didn't know, then what you should be doing is, before you make any big decisions, financial decisions to sell said assets, you should be getting advice from your commercial lawyer, your accountant, your financial planner, all those sorts of people. And yeah,
a lot of people get scared in that instance of paying a lot of tax. We also got to remember, hot tax tip, guys. Coming up to the end of financial year, there are ways to mitigate our tax in that sense. For example, it would depend on the timing of our investment. Let's say if we were to earn $100,000 now and we were to sell the property in probably about 5 days from now when it's next year, the capital gains will be assessed on our income for the next financial year. However, that's not necessarily to say that in the next year we should be making nothing in terms of employment income to try and subsidize the tax side of things. As Sam mentioned, it's probably best that you speak to a tax accountant, but there are ways that we can mitigate tax here, particularly timing. So yeah, reach out to us, guys, if you have any tax issues like that you wish to have some help with.
And tax is one of those things, guys. So it's something that you have to stay on the right side of the law, right? There's been a lot of cowboys over the years doing all sorts of things with their tax. It never ends well. So you want to minimize your tax legally, and by making smart decisions. You don't want to be a wild punter and try hide your tax or anything like that. So yeah, make sure you get advice. I can't give you advice. I'm talking to a computer screen. I can't give any of you guys personal advice. Anna Paola De Gregorio, great advice on capital gains tax. Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. All right, so guys, we've got less than 10 minutes left. So if you're sitting there and you have wanted to ask a question but you're too shy, ask the question. We're not going to bite you. Sal can't. He would. Sal would bite you, but he can't. He can't reach you. So you don't be shy. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. All right.
That's my motto.
That is Sal's. That's Sal's motto. We've got a question for you here, Sal.
I actually like this question. This question has been asked to me a couple of times. Hi, Alex Manetti.
Alex Manetti.
Good to see you.
Say g'day, mate. Say g'day. You got any questions?
I like this question here because it's kind of a funny one. I'm seeing all these ads pop up for life insurance. Why would I need this? I'll be dead anyways. Well, the question was actually asked to me that specifically, so it's a bit morbid, but we'll get to it. And I actually wrote an article about this earlier this year. In terms of life insurance, now a lot of people think, not many people think of life insurance or even things like total permanent disability or trauma insurance. These are things that are not common, but I find it funny that we have, or not necessarily funny, more nerve-wracking that we have clients, as an example, with $1 million mortgages on their head that don't have some form of protection in place. Why would I need this? I'll be dead anyways. But how about your family in this case? Let's say, touch wood, the worst was to happen, and we still have that outstanding debt there in terms of the home. What comes next basically becomes the question. And the funny comparison that I like to draw in terms of life insurance and why I bring this up, let's say we have a lot of us have cars, and a lot of us pay our car insurance, our comprehensive insurance, quite diligently. Sam, what kind of car do you have? You got the Mazda 2, eh?
Yeah.
How much is the Mazda 2 worth?
$5,000.
$5,000. Let's kick things off with that $5,000 mark. And do you pay your insurance off diligently? Do you pay it every year?
I do, mate.
You do? So we have a $5,000 Mazda 2 against a $1 million property that we have forgotten about. I don't know about you, but you guys do the maths here and see which one's a little bit more valuable. So I kind of draw that comparison with people, and I think it's crazy that people, it's all about that peace of mind, really. If we're diligently doing this with our cars, that let's say in the Mazda 2's case, $5,000, $1 million property, like, come on, guys, we've got to think about balance here. So in terms of, it's not something that we should just consider in the case of, well, we're not going to enjoy the money ourselves. It's more so about that peace of mind, knowing that our family will be looked after. So that's my response in terms of the life insurance thing. These ads are there for a reason. But if you guys need any life advice, yeah, obviously reach out to us here, Aureus.
Yeah, I've got a few things to say about that. Number one, if you see an ad for life insurance, don't buy the life insurance. That's the wrong way to do it. Go see a professional who can tailor the insurance policies to you. They're very complex policies that need to be done correctly. Otherwise, you're just throwing money out the window. And second to that, I used to be one of these people, one of these bad wogs who didn't want to spend any of my money on insurance. I'm now nearly a 30-year-old man with a business and a business partner and a team that rely on me, and a wife and a daughter and a lot of debt. And when you get to my stage in life, and that's how you're living, you want to make sure that in the event that something were to happen to me, that everyone that I care about is well taken taken care of. So I have substantial amounts of insurance at the moment. So my family wouldn't go without, and the business itself wouldn't suffer in the event that I wasn't able to work any longer. So it's one of those things. It's a grown up decision to have insurance. So yeah, it's a morbid sort of thing, and no one likes talking about it, but it's just one of these things that you do. You get it out of the way. So Big Sal helped me set my insurance up. So I'm sure you can do the same for you blokes. All right, we've got a couple of comments here. We're going to get stuck into it because there's 5 minutes left to go. Peter Akuri, the way around the capital gains thing, living the thing for 3 months plus. Yes, I've seen people do that before, Pete. They've moved into a property that they own, but it doesn't always work, mate. So if you own shares, you can't move into your shares. If you own a business and you sell a business for a big capital gain, you can't move into your business. And if you own property anywhere except around where you live, then you can't move into it either. So if you're an investor and you've got a property in each state, you can't just move states every year to minimise your capital gains tax, and you can only claim one property as your principal place of residence at any given time. So once you start accumulating more than one property, that game sort of doesn't work anymore. But yes, people have gotten around it. You're not allowed to do it just to minimise tax. That's an important rule. You have to do it because for lifestyle decisions, and not do it to minimise tax. That's the ATO ruling. So thanks for your comment there, Pete. Sandra Chimino, she says, hi Sam, at what age should you salary sacrifice more of your wage into super?
I can feel that one if you like.
All right, Sal. Yeah, Big Sal's going to answer this one for you, Sandra. He's all over it.
So, Sandra, when we're thinking of salary sacrifice, the most obvious thing that we have to think of first of all is what we like to call, obviously, our bucket strategy. Our short-term goals, our medium-term goals, and our long-term goals, essentially. So when we think of salary sacrifice, we got to keep in mind to the fact that we can't touch that money in super. Once we put it in super, it's gone till we're 60. So we want to make sure that we're not. So salary sacrifice is a good way to build super, but at the same time, we don't want to start cutting our income and start to cut back on our more immediate goals that happen in our short term and our medium term. Typically, to be a little bit more specific to your question, at what age should you salary sacrifice more of your wage? We consider more so for our clients that are pretty close to the retirement age, not necessarily for our younger generation clients here. Once we start to assess, obviously when we're getting closer to retirement and we're starting to assess more as to how much we need to fuel our retirement lifestyle, that's when we start thinking of these things. Salary sacrifice is something that we use when we really want to bolster it. But it's not something that we typically look at until we start approaching that age a little bit more, typically around the 50s mark. But the most important thing, obviously, to come out of that, just so long as we're not falling short in terms of our more immediate goals, that's when we start consider salary sacrificing.
Yeah, that's right. Sal's hit the nail on the head then. If I were to add anything to that to simplify the decision for you, Sandra, so I would make sure, as we have the bucket strategy, as Sal mentioned, okay, and superannuation is your long-term bucket, okay? So the way you do it, you fill up your short-term bucket, then your medium-term, and then your long-term. So what you want to make sure is that if you're going to be tipping money into the long-term bucket, that you have enough personal wealth in your personal names, in your short and medium-term buckets, that you no longer need to add more wealth into your short and medium-term goals. Let's say there's enough cash or there's enough surplus there that all your goals over the short and medium term will be met. Then you can start tipping money into the longer-term bucket. So hopefully that helps clear that question up for you. It's a very important question, and a lot of people don't think enough about it.
Yeah, when we start approaching our retirement age, we start to think of these questions like, how much do I need to fund my retirement? Or what's comfortable for me in terms of an income on a weekly basis. Once we start to do the maths on these kinds of things, then we can start to consider decisions of whether or not we do have to salary sacrifice. I can obviously picture where you're coming from in terms of having an ample amount of time to build up the super. But yeah, once we consider the short term, medium term, and also the maths behind how much we actually need in retirement, that's when we can make a bit more of a conscious decision. So I hope that answers your question there, Sandra.
All right. So we have... we've come to the end of another episode, Sal, of Ask Aureus Anything.
On the 24th episode next week, we'll be online for a full day, 24 hours a day.
Yes, that's true, Sal. You
took you a while
there for me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what you were talking about. Look, it's been a good episode. Thanks for filling in, Sal. That's always a pleasure. It's the first time you and I have ever done this.
I know.
It's the first time you and I have teamed up, so it's been really good. Kudos to Sal. He's hard working, mate. He's in here these late hours, working hard. All right. We will see you guys next week. So if you guys get value out of this, make sure to like, comment, share. We're just trying to add value to the community here, to our followers by doing these Ask Aureus Anything. We don't ask for anything in return. We're just trying to educate and improve financial literacy in Australia. So this is our way of doing it. So if you guys want to share and you want to get your friends involved, get them to like the page, get them to join the community, and we can continue on our mission.
If you guys have a cool story as well, it'd be great to have you guys on the podcast. Shoot us a personal message. We'd love to hear the stories about how people enjoy the journey, as Jackson's book says.
That's right. Thanks, Anna. We will thank you all for your support, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one.